just tuned in to the LOU STENBERG Assessment. Stay tuned for your host.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the LOU STENBERG Assessment. I am your host, Lou Louise, and we are kicking off Season 2, Episode 5. I'm in the studio all by myself today. No Lamont B with me, but he'll be back next week. He gets the week off, lucky him. Nice weekend to have off. So today I just want to talk to you about a lot of things, but especially the election that is taking place currently. I think we have, less than 3 months to go? So, scary times. Elections are supposed to be sort of nerve-wracking, but yet exciting. It's exciting, definitely, for 2020 election, but I would say more or less very scary, because we need change, and this election will let the American people know whether change is coming or not. So there's a lot riding on this election, but I want to talk about the president. Unfortunately, for those who are not a big supporter of his, and for those who are, probably, you could just tune me off now. It's not for me about whether I like the guy or don't like the guy. For me, it's about character. You hold the highest seat in the nation, and your character says a lot about you, your morals. It's very disturbing to me. You can't overlook that. You cannot say, I voted for a president based on his experience, because then you would have to take Trump out of that selection, that category. You can't say I base my decision because of his long-standing governmental service, the service that he's dedicated his time and his life to serving the people. That never happened with this candidate. So what do you base your judgment on when it comes to him? Because we really have two class of people currently. We have those that like Trump because he is bringing in money. They have investments, they have stocks, they have mutual funds. They love him because Americans are making money currently. Trump is a good businessman. I have to give him that much. So you have the people who love money and greed, and then you have those who stand by their morals, their tradition, and they have character. So you have two people on the spectrum. It's just disturbing. It's highly disturbing. So I want to talk to you today about our president, of course, and the election and what's going on with that. Right now we have sort of a division, but it's not much, it's two. Please, Biden and your VP, think long and hard before you start throwing in Cortez, I know you need Bernie Sanders votes, supporters. I know you need his supporters to vote for you, but let's not sell your soul down the river just to get a vote, because you're no different than the rest of them, and we're back in square one. So that's my take on it. I wish Biden would slow down and let the microphone, when you let your voice be heard. We want you. We want to know your thoughts. We want to know what you're thinking, what you plan on doing, you and your VP. We want to hear from you guys, but we don't want to hear from people we did not pick to represent us in the final race. So I would highly recommend that you stop giving these people the platform, and you take control of the platform. I would like to see more of that. So with that said, As I said, election day is approaching. I think we have like less than 3 months. I can say with confidence, and I hope I'm not wrong, Mr. Joe Biden will steal the seat. I hope he do steal the seat for the White House. It is also a time where we see sort of like the dark side of each candidate. And, you know, all gloves are off. They hit below the belt with all these advertisements and childish behavior. But this year, such childish behaviors started prior to the start of this 2020 election period. Our current president has been outspoken towards anyone who opposes his ideas and beliefs. But what I feel the president should be doing is listening to his own words. The words that are spewing out of his mouth. Take, for example, on August 13th, 2020 of this year, which was just, a week ago, the president held one of his many narcissistic news briefings. Because these news briefings really don't have anything to do with the American people, but everything to do with his ego and his unstable, emotional, roller coaster mood swings and personality. Today I want to go over, this episode is going to be about the statement he made during his speech on August 13th, last week. Every time he speaks, I don't know about you, but he leaves me speechless, and I'm completely lost in translation. So let's begin. Okay, and I quote the president. Hello, thank you very much. It was announced by Attorney General Barr that they've caught, and I'm just quoting word for word what he said, they caught the killer of Legion Telefaro. I hope I'm saying his last name right. Horrible shot. A young man, wonderful young man, he says, as if he knew the little 4-year-old that was murdered. Wonderful young man. And we have this just came out 2 minutes ago. So Attorney General Barr just announced, as you know, we named Operation Legion after Legion Telefaro, where we were going to help out and are in the process of helping out. Now remember, I'm quoting him, so sometimes we have run-on sentences, we have, cities throughout our country that have difficulties with crime, in particular, certain types of crime. So that's really good news. They caught the killer of Legion. This story just breaks my heart because here's a child who has been through a very difficult, I guess he had open heart surgery, and he's only 4. I can actually relate because I myself have had 3, and mine started at age 11. So here is a 4-year-old boy who was asleep in a place that was supposed to be somewhere safe, somewhere anyone would consider safe, your home. This little boy was not murdered because of Black Lives Matter protesting. He was not murdered because of rioters and looters. It was not a random murder either. He was murdered because of a dispute the suspect had with one of this little boy's family members. So Trump didn't mention that. It was sort of, let me just show law and order, that there was so much crime going on and we caught the killer for this person. But you caught the killer, what about the millions of murders that happen every day? If you're going to go catch the killer for one, you should catch the killer for all. This young boy, unfortunately, was the victim, like so many other murders, due to dispute between people. I'm happy that President Trump finally did something that called attention to the ongoing violence. people face living in war-zone states. Mr. Trump found a story to focus on and highlight because he knew the death of a young black child would get the attention he needed to politicize his agenda by showing in some sick and twisted way that he cares for black people, that he caught the killer of a 4-year-old black boy. Well, Mr. Trump, 1 out of 1,000 black men and women that are killed and murdered each day is a long way off showing the black community that you actually give a damn. We see right through you. You're very transparent. The fact that you can use the death of a young black boy as a bait to collect black votes sickens me. It's another low for race relations in this country. The fact that Mr. Barr continues to allow you to pull and tug on the string which you control him by is very sorrowful. So we're going to move on. We're going to stay in this briefing, of course, and I'm just going to keep going as he is making his speech so we can analyze each of it. The president. Today, we saw Joe Biden continue to politicize a pandemic and to show his appalling lack of respect for the American people. That's what it is. At every turn, Biden has been wrong about the virus. He can't ever say the word coronavirus. I don't know if it's because he can't pronounce it or whether he literally just, in his mind, thinks by not saying the name of the virus, somehow it's just going to magically go away. Ignoring the scientific evidence and putting left-wing politics before facts and evidence. I'm just a little confused. This is what I talk about when he speaks. I think he really likes to hear himself speak because you're the one who ignored the scientific evidence. You're the one who told everybody not to wear a mask. You're the one who never even wore a mask and went and visit businesses and companies, factories, without wearing a mask. You, Mr. President, endangered the lives of so many other people because it's like a domino effect. You come in contact with somebody who is infected, you then take it and you infect all your staff at the White House, including your family. You also infect other people you come in contact with, and they infect other people they come in contact with. See the domino effect? So by you being so careless about this country and the people of this country and their health and whether they die or live, it's on you. It is not on anybody else. Biden is not our president currently. You are. So stop passing that baton off and take your leadership role and take responsibility that you were the careless one. You are the reason why America has such a high rate of infection with this virus. You are the reason why people have died. So many Americans continue to die. It's just, this guy takes no responsibility for anything. Let me continue, and I quote, Sleepy Joe, we've got to make fun, and here comes the bully. Sleepy Joe. What did he call Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas? All right, Sleepy Joe opposes both the China and the Europe travel ban. You know that. He opposed the China travel ban that I instituted very early, and the Europe travel ban that I instituted quite early. It's not even earlier, quite early. So here we go with the run-on sentences. But why are you comparing what your administration did, what you did, to what Joe Biden did? Joe Biden is not the president. You are the president. So how is he going to institute a travel ban regulation when you're the president? How is he going to tell the President of the United States how to run his country? Nobody told you how to run your country. You ran the country straight down to the ground, Mr. President. It was not Joe Biden. Don't blame. It's like a child that does not take responsibility for his actions. So what does he do? He tries to deflect and put the blame on other people. What does Joe Biden have to do with the decisions you have made in the last 4 years? Absolutely nothing. Take responsibility. So here is my response to that whole comment about how he did this and I did. You notice it's always I, me, never we, never my team, never, it's always I or me. And we know very well it is not him that is making decisions. So this is someone who should not be pointing the finger at anybody but himself. How does the man that were elected by the American people to be our leader, who was in charge for 4 years prior to the coronavirus surfacing in the United States, blame and point fingers at people who are not in charge or within the current administration? President Trump, the people of the United States voted for you to lead us to victory, safety, and longevity. They did not expect to be led by a person who takes no responsibility for their lack of leadership during one of perhaps the most scariest and uncertain time in our lives. The president has shown no leadership. He refuses to say the name of the virus. Mr. President, the virus is called corona. It's coronavirus, COVID-19, at least say COVID-19. He, for many months at the start of the pandemic, told the American people not to wear masks. His action cost the lives of thousands of Americans. Then he continued to deny of the deadly pandemic by not wearing masks at his narcissistic news briefing and rallies. Because of his lack of leadership and poor judgment, Senator Herman Cain, a longtime supporter of Mr. Trump, became infected with the coronavirus and died 3 weeks following Mr. Trump's rally. And now the President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, wants to point finger at someone who is not part of his administration. This is what a cowardly person do. They deflect their weakness, lack of leadership, inability to solve and resolve problems by pointing out the weaknesses of others who have absolutely nothing to do with one or the other. When the president says Biden has been wrong about the virus, ignoring the scientific evidence and putting left-wing politics before facts and evidence, Sleepy Joe opposed both the China and the Europe travel ban. You know that. He opposed the China, and I quote, and I'm just quoting him, you know that. He opposed the China travel ban that I instituted very early, and the Europe travel ban that I instituted quite early, unquote. The president got confused once again. What he meant to say is that he, the president of the United States, did every single thing he is blaming Joe Biden for. Everything he's blaming Joe Biden for is exactly what he did. So here's my message for you, Mr. President. That mirror on the wall has once again lied to your face, Mr. Trump. The mirror was talking about you, but was afraid that you might have another one of your childish hissy fit. So we continue with the news briefing again, of course. That is August 13, 2020, last week. The president, and I quote, "But while Joe Biden would allow rioters and looters and criminals and millions of illegal aliens," so we go from rioters and looters and criminals, which basically, if you're a rioter and you looter, that is criminal act, so we don't need to put the word criminal. It's already a criminal act. And millions of illegals, aliens, he just, you gotta love him, to roam free in our country. Oh, Mr. President, this is not white America. This country, your history that you know very little about, was founded by, well, native Indians, but the people that came, the settlers, were not people born in America. They came from England. They came from France. They were immigrants. They're not your typical Mexican immigrants, because somehow you seem to have such a hatred towards Hispanic people and Latin American people. You seem to have a hatred towards blacks, but not so much as the Hispanic people. I don't know why. You're obsessed with this border wall. And we should have some type of protection against people just coming into this country illegally. Everybody should come into this country legally, like I did, like my ancestors did, like so many Americans have come into this country. They've waited their turn, they were accepted, all their paperwork was done properly, and they were able to come in. And I agree with you, but putting people in cages, putting little children separated from their mom and dad into cages and not being well taken care of is inhumane for you, Mr. President. It is inhumane. It is unacceptable. It is not what America stands for. It is not what Americans stand for. It's what you stand for. It is your obsession with dividing this nation. And it's sad. It's really sad. It's not leadership. It's not patriotic. Americans are not who you are. We are not. So let me just finish what I was saying anyways, because I get off track when it comes to just the words that spews out of his mouth. And I quote, he wants and he's still on Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is his VP, and Joe Biden tells him what to do, which makes no sense, because Joe Biden doesn't tell him what to do. Joe Biden is not in his administration, but he is obsessed. This is the OCD disorder our president has. And I quote, he wants the federal government to issue a sweeping new mandate to law-abiding citizens. So what the president does most often is try to put fear in the American people, as you've noticed. If you haven't, then you really should pay close attention. His power, or sort of need for power, comes from trying to put fear in the American people. So here's my response to that statement the president made. First of all, I have to say it's craziness. You, Mr. President, are absolutely insane. Your cognitive ability to stay and remain focused on one topic at a time is clearly a problem for you. Something called attention deficit disorder. The president in his speech went from the coronavirus, well, the virus, he doesn't say coronavirus, so we'll say virus, to looters, to rioters, tossed around like a tossed salad, and then topped with a million Mexican jalapeno peppers. That was how it was like having a salad. Let's start off by tossing the looters, the rioters, all together, like a tossed salad, and then we're going to top it off with Mexican jalapeno peppers. Mr. President, we live in a free world where people do roam the streets freely. This great nation is made up of multicultural races. And even though everyone should enter the country legally, one has nothing to do with the other. The rioters and looters did not cross the Mexican border into the United States to come and protest and riot in the streets of America. What they might have done is cross the border and went into hiding underground and not above ground. So when somebody leaves a country illegally and they come into another country, Mr. President, they don't go and pick up a sign and walk the streets to draw attention to themselves. I don't know. I just don't know what's going on in that head of his. People don't do that. When you're an illegal immigrant, you tend to go underground and want to hide. You don't want to pick up sign and be on the 6 o'clock news. Yeah. So that statement you made about the rioters and looters and the Mexican illegal immigrants, it just doesn't make sense. It's all over the place. Focus. So I'm going to continue with the next I don't even know how to say it. The next quote from the president during this news briefing. My administration, a different approach, and I'm reading word from word. We have urged Americans to wear masks. When did he urge Americans to wear masks? So not only is the president sort of in La La Land, but maybe somebody should replay some of his news briefings, because he's had quite a bit, and explain to the president and try to maybe write down his words that he said and try to go over each word, one word at a time, because so many times he's told the American people they did not need to wear masks. So again, I don't know what's happening. So let me just finish. My administration, and I quote, has a different approach. We have urged Americans to wear masks. And I emphasize this is a patriotic thing to do. What? Wearing masks is a patriotic thing to do? No, saving the life of another human being is a patriotic thing to do. Not endangering the lives of the people that look up to you is a patriotic thing to do. Oh my God. Fighting in a war is a patriotic thing to do. Giving up your life for somebody else is a patriotic thing to do. Maybe, and I quote, maybe they're great and maybe they just, okay, maybe they're great and maybe they're just good. Maybe they're not so good. But frankly, what do you have to lose? So he's talking about the mask. Maybe they're great, maybe they're not so great. No, Mr. President, they're great. They helped. This is called a transport, a mode of transport. The mouth, inside the nostril, and the eyes. Those are the mode of transport for viruses and infection. So wearing a mask, it is good. It's good. It's not. Don't say it's not so good. It's good. You should. Let me continue, and I quote, but frankly, what do you have to lose? You have nothing to lose. Yeah, it's called your life. So we do, and we have been saying wear them when it's appropriate. Every time it's appropriate, except in your home. Especially in terms of social distancing. If you can't distance enough, and what do you have to lose? So basically, he's sort of downplaying. If you don't social distance, but you have on a mask, what else do you have to lose? It's called your life. It's called infecting your family members. It's, oh my God. I just can't. I mean, if anybody in their right mind have common sense and you really listen to what he says, you're going to be lost in translation, or nothing just makes sense. Nothing makes sense. It's like, am I in another world? So let me continue. But again, it's up to the governors. Yeah, the governors that he threatened and called and threatened them on the phone. The governors that, instead of them running their state and managing their state, he overpowered the governors and decided to call the troops, National Guard or the military, called the military in to come and do the governor's job. helicopter mom, helicopter dad, parents that have to helicopter over their children. That's the president we have. These governors are capable of doing their job. You may not like how they do their job, like how the rest of America does not like how you run the country, but they have the right to do their job. And you have the right to stay out of every state and focus on running this country. So I'm going to continue, but again, it's up to the governors, and we want to have a certain freedom, and I'm quoting, we want to have a certain freedom. That's what we're about. I don't even know what he's talking about. At the same time, we also understand that each state is different and is facing unique circumstances. You have very, very different states facing very unique differences in circumstances. Yeah. That's like something a second grader would say. It's like a man-child. I just don't understand. Did he not take English in class, in school? I don't know. It makes me wonder. He has a bachelor's degree in economics, and he can't, if you saw that interview, he couldn't analyze a graph. Makes me wonder whether, recently in the news, you've heard last year about the parents who paid money to get their children into these Ivy League schools. I'm wondering if Mr. Trump's parents or father paid for his son. How much money did he pay for his son to get a bachelor's degree? Because you are taught these things when you're going for your bachelor's degree in economics. You're taught how to analyze a graph. You are taught how to write, read, and complete a sentence. And not for a grown man to talk like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. Okay, so I continue. We entrust the governors of each state, elected by the people, to develop and enhance their own mass policies and other policies, following guidance from the federal government and CDC. The same CDC he does not listen to himself. We're working with each state to implement a plan based on the facts and science. He doesn't know the facts, nor does he know the science. We will continue to urge Americans to wear masks when they cannot socially distance. But we do not need to bring the full weight of the federal government down on law-abiding Americans to accomplish this goal. Well, you already did. You already brought the federal military in each state. You already did that. So what difference does it make if you decide to call in the federal government to make sure everybody wears a mask? I mean, at this point, what difference does it make? You already called the American people public enemy number one by bringing in military into states. So I don't understand. So let me continue. Americans must have their freedom after you brought in troops and took away our freedom. And I trust the American people and their governors very much. Lies. Just all lies. I trust the American people and the governors want to do the right thing to make the smart decision. So basically, I trust you, but now let me just try to remind you. Smart decision, and Joe doesn't. What does Joe have to do with your currently, what does Joe have to do with you calling in military into states? That wasn't his decision. That was your executive order that you like to sign. Joe doesn't. Joe doesn't know too much. No, Mr. President. I'm afraid that mirror, we're going to have a conversation with that mirror on the wall, because that mirror is lying to you. That mirror is telling you everything you want to hear, but it's all about you. It has nothing to do with Joe Biden. Unlike the Biden approach, our approach is guided by science. Coming from the guy that told people how how to cure the virus by injecting themselves with Lysol. That's scientific. That's why we focus on protecting the high-risk Americans. That is why we're delivering effective medical treatments or dramatically reduce the fatality rate. And that is why we are developing vaccines and therapeutic in record time. You'll see that, I think, very soon. Stop thinking, because we're not going to see it. Thank God for science. Thank God for these medical doctors that are doing their best to come up with a vaccine and a vaccine to deal with this virus. That's who we thank. We thank these frontline workers, the EMTs, the doctors, the nurses, the CNAs. Everyone that works in the healthcare field, we're the ones who thank them. They're patriotic. They're putting their life, their family's life on the line to help their fellow brothers and sisters. Mr. President, that is what you call patriotic. Not your words that really, I think the American people are tired of hearing. So I continue. Sleepy Joe rejects the scientific approach in favor of locking all Americans in their basement for months on ends. That's not true. Why are you lying to the American people? Why do you say things that are not true? Why do you put fear in your people? Why? That's not leadership. To intimidate, to put fear into the American people. I'm just lost for words. It's just disgusting. All right, let me continue. And I quote, which I think is something that Scott would be very opposed to. I think I can speak for you. You have been dealing pretty strong over the last number of weeks, but he wants them in the basement for months on end. That's not true. I think everybody knows that is not true. That is not Joe Biden's style. That is nobody's style. Maybe if you had your way, you would put us in the basement for months on end, so that way you can show to the world that the coronavirus does not exist, that the world is kosher, and that everybody should elect you, vote for you because you've done such an excellent job, which you have not. It doesn't work that way. Don't put fear into the American people. We're not stupid. People who put fear into people have little respect for those people they're putting fear into. So by you trying to put fear into the American people shows, or it says, that you have little to no respect for us. Because you're breaking down that person's self-esteem by putting fear into them. It is what a domestic violent situation. The perpetrator put fears into his victims where they can't leave, where they feel helpless. Mr. President, the American people are not helpless. We are not. We're going to show you just how helpless we are when we vote you out of that White House. So let me continue. The president earlier today, so this is a quote, I'm sorry, from the president continuing with his briefing. Earlier today, very exciting news, very big all around, all over the world. They're talking about it all over the world. It was amazing. We finalized a historic peace agreement between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. After half a century, Israel and the United Arab Emirates will fully normalize their diplomatic relations. Nobody thought this was something that could happen for a long time. This is the most important diplomatic breakthrough since the Egypt-Israel peace agreement. It was signed over 40 years ago. We have Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, here. Thank you, David, for being here. Quote, we're very much, you would agree that this was a big day for Israel and a big day for the world, question mark. The president, and I quote, continued, good, thank you, David. You've been fantastic too. Fantastic ambassador and representative of our country. Thank you very much. The deal that was reached today will enable Muslims to have far greater ability to visit many historic sites in Israel and to peacefully pray at Aqsa Mosque, which is very important to them, which they wanted to have access to for many, many decades. This is a monumental step to forging ties of cooperation in the Middle East. And I think you're going to have other countries come forward. No, Mr. President, other countries, Middle Eastern countries, are not going to really come forward. A lot of people are upset about this deal. A lot of Middle Eastern countries. So in your la-la land, it is a good thing that you did, but don't expect more. The Middle Eastern people do not. It's ingrained in their soul, in their blood, in their fiber. They do not like the West, Mr. President. I know you think you are the creme de la creme, but these people have always, before you became president, even after you leave, even 100 years from now and 100 years ago, they have always hated Americans and they've always hated the West. So don't think this. Don't put yourself on that pedestal because it's only going to fall. So let me continue. Israel is also suspending settlements, and I quote, in the West Bank, which is a big deal. Here we go with the second grader language vocabulary. A bold step towards achieving peace. Israel and the United Arab Emirates have also agreed to immediately expand and accelerate scientific collaboration to develop effective treatment and vaccine to defeat the China virus. No, Mr. President, it's not called the China virus. It is called the coronavirus. They're both being hit. Virtually every country has been hit. Huh. Really? 188 countries, and to save lives in their region and in their world. In their world, the world is our world. It's not their world. That's not. So they are working very much on the vaccine, also with us. And again, some very good news is going to take place with respect to that. But I think the United States doctors, which they're not all Americans, they're from Middle East, they're from India, they're from China. These doctors from all over the world are working diligently to come up with a vaccine. So, Mr. President, instead of praising one group, you should just praise all. Be grateful that all these medical doctors are coming together as one, as a team, and trying to save the lives of the American people, which you have put in danger. So let me go back. Our unprecedented diplomatic engagement laid the groundwork for this historic peace agreement, which was just announced a little while ago today. We're happy for him. Okay, so let me continue. We will not rest as we continue to work towards a world of greater harmony and prosperity for all. You should really listen to his words and try to follow his words. I want to thank Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed of the United Arab Emirates, two fantastic people, for their vision and their leadership. And I look forward to hosting them at the White House very soon to formally sign the agreement. We'll probably be doing it over the next, I would say, 3 weeks, and they'll be coming to Washington. So that was a tremendous day. That was a tremendous thing that happened, and that's a great sign. We have a lot of other interesting things going on with other nations, also having to do with peace agreement, and a lot of big news is coming over the next few weeks. And I am sure you'll be very impressed. And more importantly, it's a great thing for our country, a great thing for the world. So, and I quote, thank you so very much. So, my thing is, it makes me nervous because whenever the president makes a deal and nobody else that opposes maybe what he thinks or says is not present during that meeting or that deal, you gotta wonder what was made, what promises did you make? And it goes for any president, it's not only Trump, but he's a loose cannon of a president. So you gotta wonder every time he goes in to make a deal, it's gotta make you wanna cringe because you have no idea what words, are gonna come out of his mouth. If he doesn't know the law of the land, what is he gonna promise? What is he gonna say that is against our laws? But he has no clue because he lives in la la land. So whenever, it's good. I'm a fair person. I think what he did, the deal was great. But again, it scares me because nobody knows what was promised. And when it comes to this president, you just never know. So I don't know. We'll wait and see. All these deals, all these meetings you've had secretly with the Russian president, Putin, with this one, and nobody knows really what happened and what he said. And it should be scary for Americans. It should be scary for our democracy because he's going to put us where we don't want to go. So that's about it. Today's episode was basically just analyzing. That was just one news briefing we analyzed. So next week I will have Lamont B back in the studio with me, and that should be fun. I'm looking forward to not being alone here. I hope you have a great weekend and enjoy the rest of your week. And thank you for tuning in to the LOU STENBERG Assessment. This is your host, Lou Louise, signing off, and I will